friends. So this is my own personal story of how I used to have panic attacks every day and live with anxiety, debilitating anxiety every day, versus how I no longer live that way and what cured me. Hint, quitting drinking. So for me, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder when I was around 14, and that started from a psychosis event. I might do a video on that in the future, I don't know, but either way, anxiety and panic and social anxiety plagued me throughout my teen years. And then into my 20s, I started drinking as a teenager, but into my 20s, it was getting more and more persistent with my drinking. So then what goes hand in hand with that is anxiety and panic. At least it did for me, and it does for a lot of people, which is funny because you drink to cure yourself of the anxiety. You drink to feel more relaxed and to feel like you can really let go and be yourself. And so it worked awesome for a long time because I had social anxiety, so I drank to fix it. And for a lot of people, that's what they do, and they could go like that forever and it really wouldn't cause any more problems. But with me, it just kept on getting worse and worse. And then my drinking affected the rest of my life in really negative ways. But anyway, that's in other videos you can watch. So my type of anxiety, like what it was like for me, I feel like it differs from most other accounts that I've read about and watched. I've watched other people's videos on YouTube about overcoming anxiety and all that kind of stuff. And it just sounds more like just, I guess, classic anxiety, but I feel like mine was different in a few ways. And of course, everyone's anxiety and everyone's panic is different. Of course, the roots are usually different, and how we cope is usually different. We're all so individual. Of course, it only makes sense that my experience is going to be different from a lot of other people's, but see if this resonates with you. So for the anxiety part, that was just constant 24/7 anxiety. That just looked like worry about the future, worried about how I appear to others and how I look, and constant anxiety around my health. I was a hypochondriac for, I want to say 10 years. Not fun at all, but that's how a lot of my anxieties manifested, in thinking that there was something wrong with my body. And no, it's not the classic Google a symptom and it tells you have cancer and you're going to die. Like, no, nothing like that. It was like I would Google a symptom and then I would see, 10 different possibilities of what it could be. And then I would research what each of the 10 possibilities were and what they looked like. And then I had an idea that, okay, what if I'm in the early stages of this one, but like, what if I'm full blown this one? Like it wasn't just like, oh, you have a sore elbow, you're going to die. Like it wasn't like that. Like I would Google everything. It would tell me that like, ooh, be really careful, but I would have no idea how to pinpoint it or how to figure out what was wrong with me. I just had to just distract myself and pretend like everything was okay until a few days later, when I'd be in the bath and then I'd get out of the bath and I'd feel woozy and my heart would be racing and I'd be like, oh no, you get it. So that would be constant. To me, I feel like that was just more general anxiety. And I feel like it started to get way more out of control around the age of 25. And I remember that specifically because I was telling my friend about it, Chantel, and she said that around that age for her, she was like a few years older than me. She said that same thing with her around that age. So what that would look like, it was constant. Like I never got a break, and it was constant shaking or trembling, sweaty hands. I would feel woozy. I would feel very light in my body and spacey. My mind would be racing a lot. It would be hard for me to focus, but at the same time, like with the racing thoughts, I would also be very like foggy-headed, and sometimes lightheadedness would come from like literally shallow breathing all the time. And I remember working as a barista in a coffee shop, and I remember having to go into work. This was when, no, wow, I was 21. man, okay, I think this was my entire 20s. So I was, yeah, like 21 years old working as a barista at Perks down on the waterfront in Halifax. And I would get panic attacks when I was at work, but it was so busy. It was like a Starbucks. It was so busy, constant people, that would get me out of my panic attack because I was focusing on work. So I remember I would cycle in and out of constant panic attacks while I was at work, but I would just focus on my job for me to like pull myself out of a panic attack. So anyway, yeah, that went on, and then panic attacks would happen more and more. I would go through phases, of course, just like we all do. I mean, I dealt with this since I was 14 years old up until I was 30 of anxiety and panic attacks. The panic attacks were getting worse and worse as my drinking was getting worse and worse, and that was in my late 20s. And by that point, the last 5 years of my 20s was constant like state of panic. Even if I seemed fine on the outside, which I probably didn't. Like, you could probably tell I was shallow breathing, and could probably tell that I was like looking nervous a lot, and I was. But even when I looked like everything was fine, I was dealing with depression too. But when I wasn't actually depressed, I was anxious all the time, 24/7. But how it started to get like bad for me in my late 20s was like I would always feel like I always felt like I was just about to have a panic attack, but I was trying to fight it off all the time. And it got to the point sometimes where if I wasn't actively having a panic attack, and what that would look like for me would be just like a sudden outburst of like sweating, feeling sick, shaky, sometimes hyperventilating, and my brain going a mile a minute and thinking of, it depends on what the situation was. Say I just broke up with someone or whatever, and then it would be, that's all I could think about, like in that span of a half hour, say. Sometimes panic attacks would last 5 minutes, sometimes they would last half hours, and they last a couple of hours. I've had those. Not fun. But it would, heart racing, clenching. I would feel like I couldn't breathe when it was really bad. I'd feel like I was literally losing my mind and I didn't know how to stop it, but my whole body was in high alert. So I had to like make sure I didn't die physically, all while making sure that my brain or my mind didn't get completely lost in a different dimension and I could never get it back. That's what it felt like. But when I wasn't having a panic attack like that, sometimes it would just get so bad where I would just close my eyes and, deep breathe like they say to do. And I would get like flashes of scary faces. And I remember like specifically driving in cars and, I'd be looking out the window and watching telephone poles go by, trying to calm myself down. I was always trying to calm myself down. Like I said, I was always on the verge of a panic attack. So I had to like do deep breathing and like just try not to have a panic attack all the time. So I would remember driving, watching things go by. And I remember the light poles, if I like zoned out and watched it go by, I would start to see and not see with my actual eyeballs, but like see in my mind's eye, like scary faces. And then I'd be like, okay, panic attack is starting to come on, because like I wouldn't hallucinate. That's not what I'm saying. But my mind would start to be like, oh, you're going to go crazy. You're going crazy. You're losing your mind. You're not going to make it to 30. You're going to die soon. You're crazy. So all of those thoughts would then turn into emotions in my body. And those emotions of like fear and panic and dread and doom would then, because I'm a very visual person. So I guess some link somewhere in my body and my mind would then translate those thoughts and feelings into imagery in my head. And the imagery in my head was horrible, scary death and scary faces and like crazy looking faces, insane people. Like I would see that in my mind's eye. Again, not visualizations, never auditory hallucinations, nothing like that. It was just in my brain, and it was like my mind was not working with me. My mind was against me. That's what it felt like. It felt like I could never be myself. And then who even was I? I felt like my anxiety and my panic had robbed me of myself, because I didn't think I was ever going to be able to be a calm, normal human ever again, because I had lived with it for so long and I didn't know how to stop it. All I knew is that drinking made it ease up and made me feel happy and at ease and like I could be myself. It improved my mood. I had fewer inhibitions. I didn't care if that person over there didn't like me. I didn't care if, someone thought something bad. Well, I mean, I still sort of did care, but it didn't crush me because I was drunk. Like, who cares? So I felt like I had the cure when I was drunk, but then when I wasn't drunk, like when I was hungover, that was usually when panic attacks would happen again. And I noticed not right before, probably the year leading up to quitting drinking, even if I had one alcoholic beverage the day before, the next day I would have anxiety all day. And then I would like not drink for like a few days. And then the anxiety wouldn't be that bad. I'd maybe only have like half a panic attack. But if I even had just one drink, which normally I wouldn't, I would binge drink and for a bunch of days, then that would be, I have to wear my sunglasses before I go to the dollar store, because all the bright lights and colors and movement and fast paced and voices and talking and walking fast and people looking at me, all of that would cause a massive panic attack. So wearing sunglasses helped mute the world. Yeah. So that I could cope in it and go outside. I was starting to get better at dealing with panic attacks before I got sober, but I still couldn't because I was still drinking. But I was starting to learn that if I tried to fight it off, it would make it worse. If I was in the middle of a panic attack and I tried to resist it and push it away and be like, oh, I hate this, make it go away, make it stop, and tense and do all that, then it would persist. It wouldn't go away. So I started to learn that the only way to make it stop or to make sure that it doesn't start is if I didn't fight it, if I wasn't so resistant against it. And that is hard. You can watch this video, I'm going to link up there and down below, where I guide you through a panic attack. And this is basically how I did it. And it helped me immensely. So hopefully it will help you. So when I actually did get sober, I started to, of course, work on myself. I would read sobriety books. I would watch YouTube videos about people when they get sober. I would read about it. And I had therapy and things like that. So I was really working on myself and trying to unlearn unhealthy coping skills. And I was looking inward, a lot more self-reflective. And I learned grounding techniques and how to be more mindful. And honestly, that just means, to me, it means being present in the moment, using your senses, right now in this moment. What am I feeling? Well, I'm feeling a little bit warm. Actually, you know what I am? I'm feeling warm. And my right foot hurts because it's pressed against the the leg of my chair. My mouth is a bit dry. What do I hear? It's dead silent. I hear the occasional car drive by. What do I see? Well, I see lights around me. It's pretty bright. Taste. I don't really taste anything. I sort of taste like there was gum in my mouth, because there was, but not anymore. So things like that. Like, I'm paying attention to my senses. So I get into this moment, this exact moment in time. So I'm more connected to that rather than thinking ahead of what am I going to do later tonight, or what am I going to do tomorrow, or oh my God, I can't believe I said those things yesterday, or, I'm not living in the past or the future, and I'm just here in this moment. So getting more familiar with how to do that, how to ground myself when I got sober. along with all of that work in keeping myself sober and working through a lot of the baggage I had and other mental health issues, while doing that, in turn, it helped me to overcome my anxiety disorder and helped me to basically stop having panic attacks. And like, I didn't directly work on how to stop having a panic attack. It just naturally happened through therapy, and I did group therapy around, it was like a depression workshop. I took advantage of like anything I could find in my city around addiction support. And in turn, all of that helped me with my anxiety disorder. It was awesome. So now, at almost 8 years sober, I'm 38 years old, and looking back now, remembering when real panic, real anxiety started at the age of 14, looking back now and seeing where I am now is obviously night and day, but it's so night and day on so many levels of how I feel in my own body, how my mind works. And one great skill that I've learned is paying attention to my body and like understanding my body cues, which that comes with age anyway. That like I wasn't good at this in my 20s, but I'm good at it now in my 30s, and I'm sure I'm going to be even better at it in my 40s, 50s, 60s and beyond. So that would have just came naturally. But me quitting drinking, which is quitting numbing, made this process so much better and more meaningful. The process of getting to know myself and listening to my body and my thoughts and interpreting them as I need more sleep or I need to eat more. Now I understand that if I have 5 hours sleep the next day, I'm going to feel lighter in my body. My eyes are going to feel gritty. I'm going to feel like my thinking is up here, like where it's more surface thinking, where my normal thinking would be all here. I'd think deeply, I'd think mid, I'd think shallowly. But when I don't get enough sleep, I'm only thinking very loosely. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if anyone else describes things the way I do, but hopefully you know what I mean when I talk like that. But so anyway, that's just me describing my thoughts and feelings, which is funny because I never really did that in my 20s. I couldn't articulate how I thought and felt about my own thoughts and feelings. I couldn't do that for most of my life until I got sober and practiced for many years. I literally had to practice putting into words what I was feeling. And I'm still really not that great at it, but I'm a hell of a lot better at it than I was even like 2 years ago. So there is hope. So do I still have anxiety now? Do I have panic attacks at all? No. I can't remember the last time I had a panic attack. And honestly, in the almost 8 years that I've been sober, I might have had like 3 panic attacks ever. And I only had 1 panic attack in the first like 4 years of being sober. As for anxiety, I mean, sure, I probably do live with a low level of it, I think, but it's definitely not every day. And it looks way different. I'm not worried. I mean, sure, of course, I'm worried about the future. I mean, who isn't, especially now in 2022 with how the world is, but you know what I mean? I don't have like an unhealthy worry around things. I have some regular worries, like when am I going to get pregnant? When am I going to have my baby? Because I've been trying for so long and it's not working, and it's that really weighs heavily on you. So those are regular worries. Those are very understandable anxieties that I have around that and around fertility. But other than that, no, just normal worries, really. And as for panic, like, no. I mean, I had like a little mini, like, not mini, a pretty major like cry session a few weeks ago, all around like stress over money. But like, that's normal. It wasn't a huge freak out where I thought I was going to die from my body betraying me in a panic attack. It was nothing like that, which is so friggin' cool because, man, the anxiety and panic that I used to experience in my 20s, like it weighed on me heavily, and I thought I was going to be like that for the rest of my life, and there was no escape, and I just had to live with it, and it was hell. So if that's your life right now, I still remember very clearly what that was like, and it was hell, and I'm so sorry that you're going through that. And there really is a different life outside of living with constant anxiety and panic. There really is a way to get through it. And I can't even tell you how specifically, other than to share what happened to me. I tried to reach out to professionals, but here in Nova Scotia, it's very hard to access the free resources. Of course, you can always pay, $150 for a 50-minute session with a psychologist. But at that time in my 20s, I was living paycheck to paycheck. Not even, man. Sometimes a paycheck would be rent and a phone and my phone bill and no groceries. So not even paycheck, even less than that. So I couldn't afford to pay a therapist, and I didn't have benefits through my work because my work didn't offer benefits, and so I had nothing. I was at the mercy of of our healthcare system, and so I remember going to like an intake session, basically like asking for anything that I didn't even know what they could offer me, but basically I explained them what my panic and anxiety was like, and I was basically told that unless I was, ready to die and like right there at that moment, then they really couldn't help me. So it's like I couldn't prevent horrible things from happening because I didn't look sick enough, even though I was seeing scary faces in my mind like 24/7, and I felt like I was going to die because panic wouldn't stop. They still said I wasn't sick enough. So I had to do this on my own, and there's books out there. There's lots of resources and stuff online. And keep in mind, I am not an addictions counselor or even working in addictions, substance use field. I work in engineering. I just have lived experience. So if you feel like things are completely out of control for you, then definitely reach out, at least try. Things could be very different where you live. You could have a completely different experience than what I experienced here in Nova Scotia back eight years ago, so don't be discouraged by my story in that way. I hope that you find the opposite actually in me sharing my story. I hope you find that, hey, there is help, there is hope, that you really can live a life without anxiety and panic attacks all the time. I did it, and I truly didn't believe it was possible, but I did it, and you can too. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and remember, you can do hard things, you deserve happiness, and you are loved. These things are so annoying. Okay, constantly to now where